Captain Jake Harrison stared out the bridge window of the UHS Defiance as the ship drifted through empty space. The stars looked different here, so far from Earth that the sun was just another tiny dot of light. He had been commanding deep space missions for 5 years, but this far out still made him feel small. "Captain, we're getting some strange readings on the long-range sensors," said Lisa Carter from her position at the navigation station. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel as she tried to make sense of what she was seeing. Jake walked over to look at her screen. The Defiance was exploring the Kepler 442 system, a place no human had ever been before. Their new jump drive technology had made this trip possible, cutting what would have been a 100-year journey down to just 3 months. "What kind of readings?" Jake asked. Lisa pointed to a blinking dot on her display. "There's something big orbiting the star. Really big. But it's not natural. The shape is all wrong for an asteroid or moon." Jake felt his heart beat faster. In all of humanity's exploration of space, they had never found proof of alien life. Not even bacteria. Earth seemed to be alone in the universe. But this reading suggested something else entirely. "Wake up the science team," Jake ordered, "and get Ryan up here to check our sensors. I want to make sure we're not seeing things." Ryan Bell arrived on the bridge 10 minutes later, still rubbing sleep from his eyes. As the chief engineer, he knew every piece of equipment on the ship better than anyone. He ran a full diagnostic on the sensor array while Jake watched nervously. "Sensors are working fine, Captain," Ryan reported. "Whatever Lisa found, it's really there." Dr. Kevin Price arrived next, followed by Amy Torres, their communications specialist. Kevin was young for a chief science officer, but he had a brilliant mind and had volunteered for this mission specifically because he hoped to find signs of alien life. "Show me what you've got," Kevin said, practically bouncing with excitement. Lisa transferred her readings to the main screen. The object appeared as a fuzzy blob, but even from this distance they could tell it was huge, much bigger than any space station humans had ever built. "It's definitely artificial," Kevin said after studying the readings for several minutes. "Look at these patterns. That's not how natural objects form. Someone built this thing." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Someone, not something. Someone intelligent enough to build structures in space. Someone who wasn't human. "How far away is it?" Jake asked. "About 6 hours at full speed," Lisa replied. "It's in a stable orbit around the star, but the star is dying. It's a red giant, probably only has a few million years left. That means whatever built this has been here for a long time," Kevin added. "Long enough to watch a star age and die." Jake made his decision quickly. "Set course for the object, full speed. Amy, start recording everything. If this is what I think it is, Earth is going to want to know about it." The next 6 hours felt like the longest of Jake's life. The crew worked in shifts, but nobody really slept. Even the Marines, who usually stayed out of the way during exploration missions, found excuses to visit the bridge and look at the sensor readings. As they got closer, the object became clearer. It was enormous, bigger than any city on Earth. The Ticum structure looked like a giant ring made of dark metal, covered in strange symbols that glowed with a faint blue light. "Captain?" Amy said suddenly, her voice tight with excitement. "I'm picking up electromagnetic signals from the structure. It's transmitting data." "What kind of data?" Jake asked. "I don't know. The patterns are completely different from anything humans have ever created. But it's definitely organized information, not random noise." Kevin was already suiting up to leave the ship. "I need to get closer. We need to understand what this thing is." "Absolutely not," Jake said firmly. "We don't know if it's safe. We don't know if it's still active. For all we know, getting too close could trigger some kind of defense system." But Kevin was persistent. "Captain, this is the greatest discovery in human history. We can't just look at it from a distance. We need to study it, understand it. This could change everything we know about life in the universe." Jake considered the options. The smart thing would be to observe from a safe distance, record everything they could, and then return to Earth with the information. But Kevin was right. This discovery was too important to handle carelessly. "All right," Jake said finally. But we do this carefully. Small team, short trip, constant communication with the ship. First sign of trouble, we leave immediately. 2 hours later, Jake found himself in a small shuttle with Kevin and 2 Marines, approaching the alien structure. Up close, it was even more impressive. The ring stretched out in all directions, its surface covered in patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. There, Kevin pointed to what looked like a docking bay. That opening looks like it was designed for ships our size. Or it could be a trap, said Sergeant Danny Cooper, one of the Marines. Jake weighed the risks. They had come this far. They were already making history. Take us in, but slowly. Everyone stays alert. The shuttle slipped through the opening into a vast chamber filled with strange machines and control panels. Emergency lighting activated automatically, bathing everything in that same blue glow they had seen from outside. Kevin was already scanning everything with his equipment. Captain, you need to see this. These readings. This isn't just a space station. It's some kind of library or data storage facility. And it's huge. We could spend years cataloging everything in here. Jake watched as symbols appeared on screens throughout the chamber. The alien writing meant nothing to him, but the fact that the systems were responding to their presence was both exciting and terrifying. Amy, are you getting this? Jake spoke into his communicator. Copy, Captain. The structure started broadcasting more signals as soon as you docked. It's like your presence activated something. That's when Kevin made the discovery that would change everything. Captain, I'm accessing what looks like a central database. The translation software is starting to make sense of some of these symbols. Images began appearing on the screens around them. Star maps showing vast regions of space, pictures of different alien species, and then, unmistakably, an image of Earth's solar system with markers indicating recent human activity. They know about us, Kevin whispered. Whoever built this, they know about Earth. They know about humans. Jake felt his blood turn cold as more information appeared on the screens. Images of massive alien ships, weapons that could destroy planets, and what looked like invasion plans for dozens of star systems. Captain, Amy's voice crackled over the communicator. Urgent now. Something's happening. The structure is sending out some kind of signal, a really powerful one. It's broadcasting, in all directions across the galaxy. Jake grabbed Kevin by the arm. We're leaving, now. But as they rushed back to their shuttle, Kevin clutched a data storage device he had connected to the alien systems. I got some of it, Captain. Not everything, but enough. Enough to know that we're in serious trouble. As the Defiance jumped back toward Earth 3 days later, Jake stared at the preliminary analysis Kevin had prepared. Humanity wasn't alone in the universe, but that wasn't good news. They had been noticed by something vast and powerful. Something that considered Earth's recent development of faster-than-light travel to be a threat. The signal the alien structure had sent was still traveling across the galaxy, carrying news of humanity's discovery. Jake didn't know who would receive that signal, but he had a terrible feeling that they would find out soon enough. The war hadn't started yet, but Jake realized that his crew had just lit the fuse. Admiral Patricia Morgan stood in the command center of Luna Station, watching the screens that showed Earth hanging like a blue marble in the darkness. 3 weeks had passed since Captain Harrison and the Defiance had returned with their terrible news. 3 weeks of preparing for something humanity had never faced before. The alien signal had stopped transmitting 2 days ago. That worried Patricia more than if it had continued. Silence usually meant something was coming. Admiral, we have contacts, Lieutenant Commander Steve Adams called out from his station. His voice was steady, but Patricia could hear the tension underneath. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace near Earth orbit. Patricia moved to the main display screen. What she saw made her stomach drop. 5 ships hung in space around Earth, each one the size of a city. They were sleek and dark, with curves that seemed to flow like water. Nothing like the angular, practical designs humans used. Are they responding to our communications? Patricia asked. No response to any frequency we've tried, Amy Torres reported. She had been transferred to Luna Station to help with first contact protocols after her experience on the Defiance. But they're scanning everything. Our satellites, space stations, even the surface of Earth. Patricia had spent her entire career preparing for war against other humans. She had studied every battle, every strategy, every weapon system that Earth's nations had developed. But nothing had prepared her for this. How do you fight an enemy whose technology was centuries ahead of your own? Admiral, came another voice from across the room. We're receiving a transmission. It's coming from the largest ship. Put it through, Patricia ordered. The main screen flickered and changed. Instead of showing the alien ships, it now displayed the image of a creature that was clearly not human. It stood nearly 8 feet tall with smooth gray skin and large black eyes that seemed to look right through the camera. When it spoke, the words were translated by computers, but the voice still sounded strange and cold. I am first speaker, facts of the Hegemony Council. You are the species that calls itself human. You have been noticed. Patricia stepped forward, even though she knew the alien couldn't see her yet. This is Admiral Patricia Morgan of Earth's Space Defense Command. We are prepared to establish peaceful relations with your people. The alien's expression didn't change. You have developed faster than light travel without permission. You have accessed hegemony data without authorization. You have violated the laws that govern this galaxy. We didn't know about any laws, Patricia replied. This is our first contact with intelligent alien life. We're willing to discuss any misunderstandings. There is no misunderstanding. First speaker Vax continued. Species that achieve interstellar travel must be evaluated by the hegemony. Those who prove useful are allowed to exist under our guidance. Those who prove dangerous are removed. Patricia felt her hands clench into fists. Are you threatening us? I am informing you of reality. You have 72 of your hours to surrender all faster-than-light technology to hegemony control. Your species will be relocated to reservation worlds, where you can exist safely under our protection. Refusal will result in your elimination. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Patricia looked around at her staff, seeing fear and anger in equal measure on their faces. Admiral, Amy Torres said quietly. Captain, Harrison is requesting permission to return to Luna Station. He says he has new information from the alien database. Grant it immediately, Patricia ordered. And get me the President of the United States, the Secretary General of the UN, and every other world leader we can reach. We need to make a decision, and we need to make it fast. 4 hours later, Patricia stood in a secure briefing room with representatives from every major nation on Earth. Captain Jake Harrison sat at the table, looking exhausted but determined. Dr. Kevin Price had set up a holographic display showing information from the alien database. The good news, Kevin began, is that we learned a lot about the hegemony from their own records. They're an empire that spans thousands of star systems and controls hundreds of different alien species. What's the bad news? Asked the Chinese representative. The bad news is that they've done this exact same thing to every species they've encountered for the past 10,000 years. Show up, demand surrender, and then either enslave or destroy whoever they find. Jake stood up and activated another part of the display. But we also found something else. Records of species that fought back. The hegemony isn't invincible. They're just very good at making people think they are. How many species have successfully resisted them? Patricia asked. 7 that we know of, Kevin replied. All of them used similar tactics, hit-and-run attacks, guerrilla warfare, and, most importantly, they adapted hegemony technology for their own use. The British representative leaned forward. Are you suggesting we fight them? Look at their ships, look at our ships. It would be suicide. Maybe, Jake said. But the alternative is slavery or extinction, and I found something else in their database. The hegemony is spread thin. They control so much territory that they can't keep large fleets everywhere. Most of their control comes from fear and their reputation for being unbeatable. Patricia studied the information on the display. The hegemony had millions of ships, but they were scattered across thousands of star systems. The fleet orbiting Earth right now was probably the largest force they could gather quickly. What about their technology? She asked. How do we fight? Weapons we don't understand? Kevin smiled for the first time since the briefing began. That's where it gets interesting. The hegemony has been using the same basic technology for thousands of years. They're advanced, but they're not innovative. They don't adapt or improve. Every species they've conquered has used similar technology because the hegemony doesn't change. But we do, Jake added. Humans are good at adapting things, taking technology and using it in ways it wasn't designed for. If we can get our hands on some of their equipment, we might be able to level the playing field. Patricia made her decision. How long do we have before they expect an answer? 68 hours, Amy Torres reported. Then we use every minute of it. Jake, I want you to take the Defiance and a small fleet to that supply depot you found in the alien database. Get us some of their technology. Kevin, I want you working with every scientist we have to figure out how to use whatever Jake brings. Back. The room erupted in arguments. Representatives from different countries started shouting about the impossibility of the plan, the risks, the certain destruction it would bring. Patricia slammed her hand on the table, silencing them all. The hegemony has given us 3 days to surrender or die. I say we give them a third option. We show them what happens when you threaten humanity. And if we lose? Asked the Japanese representative. Then we lose fighting, Patricia replied. But at least our children will know we didn't go quietly. As the meeting broke up and representatives hurried back to their countries to prepare, Patricia walked to the window overlooking Earth. The alien ships were still there, dark shapes, blocking out stars that humans had dreamed of reaching for thousands of years. Somewhere down on that blue world, children were playing, not knowing that their entire species was about to make a choice that would determine their future. Patricia thought about her own daughter, safe in a bunker in Colorado, and made a promise that she would see her again. 3 days wasn't much time to prepare for war against an interstellar empire, but humans had always been good at doing impossible things when their backs were against the wall. The hegemony was about to learn that threatening Earth's children was the worst mistake they had ever made. Jake Harrison was already preparing his ship for another jump into deep space. This time, he wasn't going to explore. This time, he was going to steal the weapons humanity needed to fight back. The war was about to begin, and it would start with humans doing what they did best, taking something that belonged to someone else and using it in ways nobody had thought possible. Patricia watched the alien ships and smiled grimly. They thought they were dealing with another primitive species that would surrender out of fear. They were about to discover just how wrong they were. Captain Jake Harrison stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching as 5 more human ships joined his small fleet. They weren't military vessels. Earth didn't have enough warships for a mission like this. Instead, Admiral Morgan had given him mining ships, cargo haulers, and even a luxury cruise liner that had been converted for deep space transport. This is insane, muttered Ryan Bell, as he looked at the makeshift fleet on his screens. We're about to attack an alien military base, with ships designed to haul rocks and tourists. Insane plans are the only kind that work when you're outnumbered 1,000,000 to 1, Jake replied. He activated the ship's communication system to address all the vessels in his fleet. All ships, this is Captain Harrison. In 12 hours we jump to the Tau Ceti system. Our target is a hegemony supply depot that should be lightly defended. Lieutenant Megan Wright, the fleet's best pilot, spoke up from her station. Captain, I've been studying the alien ship designs from the database. Their weapons are powerful, but they're designed for fighting other aliens who follow predictable battle tactics. They won't expect us to ram cargo ships full of explosives into their hulls. Jake nodded. That was exactly what he was counting on. Humans had always been unpredictable in war. They used whatever worked, whether it was honorable or not. Sergeant Danny Cooper and his Marines had spent the past 2 days preparing for boarding actions. Sir, we've studied the layout of hegemony facilities from the database. Their security systems are designed to keep out species that are afraid to die. They're not designed to stop humans who don't care about coming home. The plan was simple and desperate. The human fleet would jump into the Tau Ceti system and attack the supply depot before the aliens could call for help. They would steal as much technology as possible and destroy the rest. If they were lucky, they might even capture some alien prisoners who could provide intelligence. Jump in 30 seconds, Lisa Carter announced from navigation. All ships, report ready. Jake took a deep breath. In a few minutes, humanity would fire the first shots in an interstellar war. There was no going back after this. "Jump," he ordered. Space twisted around them as the experimental jump drives activated. When the stars stopped moving, they were in the Tau Ceti system, and the alien supply depot hung before them like a massive metal flower with dozens of docking arms extending in all directions. "Contact," Amy Torres called out. 3 hegemony, patrol ships moving to intercept. They're demanding we identify ourselves. "Tell them we're the mail service," Jake said grimly. "All ships attack pattern Alpha. Remember, we only get one chance at this." The human fleet spread out and accelerated toward the depot. The alien patrol ships were fast and heavily armed, but there were only 3 of them. They had been expecting to deal with smugglers or pirates, not a coordinated military assault. The first alien ship opened fire on the cargo hauler Persistence. The ship's shields flared and died under the alien weapons, but Captain Helen Brooks didn't change course. Instead, she activated the mining charges that had been loaded into her cargo holds and rammed straight into the alien vessel. The explosion lit up space like a new star. When the light faded, both ships were gone. "Good work, Helen," Jake whispered, knowing she couldn't hear him anymore. The second alien ship tried to retreat, but Lieutenant Wright was already on an intercept course with her modified fighter. She had volunteered to fly a ship packed with nuclear weapons, knowing it was a one-way trip. "Tell my mom I love her," Wright transmitted, then disappeared in another brilliant flash as her fighter collided with the alien patrol ship. The third alien ship managed to get off a distress signal before Sergeant Cooper's Marines, riding in a converted passenger liner, caught up with it. They used magnetic grapples to attach their ship to the alien hull, then cut through with industrial welders. "We're inside," Cooper reported. "These aliens have never seen boarding tactics like this. They don't know how to fight in close quarters." Within minutes, Cooper and his team had captured the alien ship intact. More importantly, they had taken several alien prisoners alive. Jake turned his attention to the supply depot. The facility was huge, but it only had automated defenses. The aliens had never expected anyone to be crazy enough to attack one of their bases. "This is easier than I thought," Ryan Bell said as he watched the automated defense systems try to target the fast-moving human ships. "Their computers can't keep up with our random movement patterns." Jake smiled. Random movement patterns. That was just another way of saying that humans were too unpredictable for alien computers to understand. The cargo ship New Texas, captained by an old mining veteran named Bill Murphy, attached itself to one of the depot's docking arms and began cutting through the hull. "I'm inside the main storage area," Murphy reported. "You're not going to believe what's in here." Jake watched on his screen as Murphy's cameras showed warehouse after warehouse filled with alien technology, weapons, armor, computer systems, and most importantly, the components needed to build faster than light drives. "Load everything you can carry," Jake ordered. "We've got maybe an hour before reinforcements arrive." The next hour was a frenzy of activity. Human crews swarmed through the alien depot, grabbing everything that looked useful. They didn't understand most of what they were taking, but Dr. Kevin Price had given them a list of priorities based on his analysis of the alien database. "Captain," Amy Torres called out urgently, "I'm picking up hyperspace signatures. Big ones. Something's coming." Jake looked at his tactical display. The human ships had loaded as much alien technology as they could carry, but they were still working on downloading computer files from the depot's central database. "How long until they get here?" he asked. 5 minutes, maybe less." Jake made the hardest decision of his life. "All ships begin withdrawal immediately. Leave everything that isn't already loaded." "Captain, we're not finished," protested Dr. Price from the surface of the depot. "There are entire libraries of information. Here, technical manuals, star charts, military intelligence. Doctor, if you don't leave now, you'll never leave at all." Jake watched as the human ships began pulling away from the depot. Some of the crews were still trying to carry alien equipment as they ran for their ships. Others were setting explosive charges to destroy what they couldn't take. The alien reinforcements arrived just as the last human ship cleared the depot's defensive perimeter. Jake counted 12 hegemony warships, each one larger and more powerful than anything in his fleet. All ships, prepare for emergency jump, he ordered. Random directions, rendezvous at coordinates I'm transmitting now. The human fleet scattered like leaves in a hurricane. Each ship jumped to a different star system, making it impossible for the aliens to follow them all. As the Defiance jumped away from Tau Ceti, Jake looked back at the supply depot. Half of it was on fire, and the other half was being evacuated by alien emergency crews. The raid had been a complete success. But more importantly, the aliens were no longer looking at humans as primitive savages who would surrender when threatened. The distress signals from the depot were already spreading across the hegemony's communication networks. Humanity had drawn first blood in an interstellar war. Jake knew that the aliens would respond with overwhelming force. Every hegemony fleet in the galaxy would be mobilized to destroy Earth. But that was exactly what Admiral Morgan had planned. The longer the aliens spent chasing human raiders across the galaxy, the more time Earth had to prepare its defenses and study the stolen alien technology. The war had truly begun, and humans had just proven they were willing to do whatever it took to survive. Jake smiled as he looked at the cargo holds full of alien equipment. The hegemony thought they were dealing with another species that would fight by their rules. They were about to learn that humans didn't believe in rules when their survival was at stake. The galaxy was about to change forever, and it all started with a desperate raid by a handful of humans who refused to surrender. Admiral Patricia Morgan stood in the war room deep beneath Luna Station, staring at a holographic map of known space. Red dots marked hegemony fleet movements, and there were far too many of them. The aliens had declared humanity a Class A threat, which meant they were sending everything they had. "How many ships are we looking at?" Patricia asked her intelligence officer, Commander Lisa Price, who was Dr. Kevin Price's sister and had been promoted after the successful raid. "Our best estimate is over 3,000 hegemony warships moving toward Earth," Lisa replied. "They're coming from 12 different directions, and they'll all arrive within the next 72 hours. Patricia had spent the past month preparing Earth's defenses, but she knew it wouldn't be enough. Humanity had maybe 200 ships that could fight, and most of those were converted civilian vessels with jury-rigged weapons. "What about the technology Captain Harrison brought back?" she asked. Dr. Kevin Price, working at a computer terminal covered in alien components, looked up with tired eyes. "We've made incredible progress, Admiral. The alien shield generators are 3 times more efficient than anything we had before. Their weapons are more powerful, and we've figured out how to disrupt their communication systems." "But?" Patricia could hear the hesitation in his voice. "But we've only been able to retrofit about 50 ships with the new technology. The rest of our fleet is still using human equipment that won't last 5 minutes against hegemony weapons." Patricia nodded grimly. She had known this day would come ever since Captain Harrison had triggered that alien beacon. The only question was whether humanity would go down fighting or find a way to survive. "Ma'am," came a voice from across the room. "We're receiving a transmission from Captain Harrison." Jake's face appeared on the main screen. He looked older than he had a month ago, with new lines around his eyes and gray in his hair. Leading hit-and-run attacks against an interstellar empire was taking its toll. "Admiral, I'm reporting from the Alpha Centauri system. We just finished, hitting another hegemony supply convoy. The good news is we're getting better at this. The bad news is they're adapting to our tactics." "How so?" Patricia asked. "They're no longer sending small patrols. Every convoy now has at least 6 warships as escorts. And they've started using different communication frequencies that we can't jam as easily." Patricia had expected this. The hegemony might be slow to change, but they weren't stupid. Eventually, they would learn how to counter human tactics. "There's something else, Admiral," Jake continued. "We've been making contact with other alien species. Turns out the hegemony has a lot of enemies. The Vegan Republic and the Centauri Alliance have both offered to provide intelligence and supplies if we keep hitting hegemony targets." This was the first good news Patricia had heard in weeks. "What kind of supplies?" "Raw materials mostly, and star charts showing hegemony military installations we didn't know about. But Admiral, they want something in return." "What?" "They want us to attack the hegemony capital world. They think if we can strike at the heart of their empire, it might inspire other species to rebel. Patricia felt her stomach drop. The hegemony capital was the most heavily defended system in the galaxy. It would be a suicide mission. We'll discuss it later, Captain. Right now I need you and your fleet to fall back toward Earth. We're going to make our stand here. Jake's expression grew serious. Admiral, with respect, Earth can't hold against 3,000 enemy ships. Maybe we should evacuate the population and continue the fight from hidden bases. Absolutely not, Patricia replied firmly. This is our home. If we run now, we'll spend the rest of our lives running. Besides, I have a plan. After ending the transmission, Patricia turned to address the room full of officers and scientists. Ladies and gentlemen, in 3 days, the largest military fleet in galactic history will arrive at Earth. They expect to find a primitive species cowering in fear, waiting to be destroyed. She activated a new display showing Earth's defensive positions. Instead, they're going to find something they've never encountered before. They're going to find humans who refuse to give up. Dr. Kevin Price had been working around the clock, with teams of engineers to prepare Patricia's secret weapon. Using technology stolen from the Hegemony Depot, they had built something that had never existed before, a planet-wide shield generator. The shield won't stop their weapons forever, Kevin explained to the assembled officers, but it will give us time. Time to coordinate our defenses, time to launch counterattacks, and time to show the galaxy that the hegemony can be defeated. Patricia's plan was ambitious and desperate. Earth's entire population had been moved to underground shelters that could survive even nuclear bombardment. Every ship in the solar system had been equipped with the best human and alien technology they could manage, and hidden throughout the asteroid belt were automated weapons platforms that would activate when the enemy fleet arrived. But the real key to the plan was something the aliens wouldn't expect: cooperation. Species throughout the galaxy had been fighting the hegemony for thousands of years, but always individually, never as a coordinated alliance. "Ma'am," called out the communications officer, "we're receiving transmissions from the Vegan Republic fleet. They're requesting permission to enter the solar system." Patricia smiled. "Granted. Tell them to take positions behind Mars, and send the same authorization to the Centauri Alliance ships." Over the next 2 days, ships from a dozen different alien species arrived in the solar system. They came quietly, using routes provided by the human intelligence network that Captain Harrison had built during his raids. Most were small forces, but together they represented something the hegemony had never faced: a united front. The final piece of Patricia's plan involved the most dangerous gamble of all. She had authorized Dr. Kevin Price to attempt something that alien scientists said was impossible: turning Earth's moon into a weapon. "We've installed the captured hegemony weapons throughout the lunar surface," Kevin reported. "If this works, we'll be able to fire the equivalent of a battleship's main gun from multiple positions simultaneously." "And if it doesn't work?" Patricia asked. "Then we'll probably destroy the moon and everyone on it." Patricia accepted the risk. Humanity had been taking impossible chances ever since they had first looked up at the stars and decided to reach for them. On the morning of the 3rd day the hegemony fleet arrived, 3,000 ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, expecting to find a defenseless world ready for conquest. Instead, they found Earth's planetary shield glowing like a blue star, protected by the largest alliance fleet in galactic history. Human ships flew alongside Vegan cruisers and Centauri fighters, while automated weapons platforms hidden throughout the asteroid belt powered up their targeting systems. First Speaker Vax appeared on communication screens throughout the solar system, his face showing surprise for the first time since humans had met him. "This changes nothing," he announced. "You have delayed your destruction by mere hours. The hegemony will not be denied." Patricia activated the fleet-wide communication system from her command center on Luna. "First Speaker Vax, this is Admiral Patricia Morgan of Earth. You came here expecting to destroy a primitive species. Instead, you found an alliance of free peoples who refuse to bow to tyrants. You cannot win," Vax replied. "Our fleet outnumbers yours 5 to 1. "Maybe," Patricia said. But you've never fought humans before, and the one thing you should know about humans is that we're really good at doing impossible things. She gave the order that would begin the largest space battle in galactic history. All ships engage the enemy. Show them what happens when you threaten our home. The Battle of Earth was about to begin, and Captain Jake Harrison was already moving his strike force into position for the most desperate attack in human history. While the main fleets fought for control of Earth's orbit, he would attempt to capture a hegemony command ship and use it to strike at the heart of their empire. The war that had begun with a single human ship discovering an alien beacon was about to reach its climax among the stars of humanity's birth. The Battle of Earth had been raging for 6 hours when Captain Jake Harrison made the decision that would change the course of galactic history. His small strike force had managed to capture a hegemony command ship during the chaos of the main battle, and now he faced an impossible choice. "Captain, we've got their hyperspace navigation systems online," reported Ryan Bell from the captured alien bridge. "We can reach the hegemony capital world, but the ship's nuclear reactor is damaged. We'll have maybe one shot before the whole thing goes critical." Jake looked around at his crew. Amy Torres was working frantically to decode hegemony military communications. Dr. Kevin Price was trying to understand the alien ship's weapon systems. Sergeant Danny Cooper and his Marines were guarding alien prisoners in the lower decks. Through the view screen, Jake could see the massive battle raging around Earth. Admiral Morgan's fleet was holding its own, but barely. The planetary shield was flickering under constant bombardment, and human ships were being destroyed faster than they could be replaced. "Sir," Amy Torres called out. "I'm intercepting hegemony communications. They're calling for reinforcements from their reserve fleets. If those ships arrive, Earth won't stand a chance." Jake made his decision. "Set course for the hegemony capital. If we can strike at their leadership, maybe we can end this war before Earth falls." "Captain," Kevin Price said quietly, "the odds of success are practically zero. Their capital system will have thousands of defense platforms and patrol ships. Then we better make sure our one shot counts," Jake replied. Meanwhile, on Luna Station, Admiral Patricia Morgan was coordinating Earth's defense from her command center. The battle was not going well. Despite the alliance with other alien species and the technological upgrades from captured hegemony equipment, the enemy simply had too many ships. "Admiral, the planetary shield is down to 30% power," reported Commander Lisa Price. "The generators can't handle this level of bombardment much longer." Patricia watched the tactical display as another human destroyer was vaporized by hegemony weapons. They had lost over half their fleet and the enemy was still coming. "Ma'am, we're receiving a priority transmission from Captain Harrison," came a voice from across the room. Jake's face appeared on the main screen, and Patricia could see the alien bridge behind him. "Admiral, we've captured a hegemony command ship and we're attempting to strike at their capital world. If we succeed, it might give you the opening you need." "Jake, that's suicide," Patricia said. "Their capital is the most heavily defended system in the galaxy." "Maybe," Jake replied with a grim smile. "But someone needs to show these aliens that humans don't know when to quit. Besides, we've got some help." The screen changed to show Dr. Kevin Price, who was holding what looked like a small alien device. "Admiral, we've figured out how to disrupt their fleet coordination systems. If we can get close enough to their central command facility, we can shut down communications for their entire military network." Patricia understood immediately. Without coordination, the massive hegemony fleet would be reduced to individual ships acting on their own. It would give the Alliance forces a chance to defeat them in detail. "Do it," she ordered. "We'll hold the line here as long as we can." Jake's strike force jumped toward the hegemony capital, just as Earth's planetary shield finally collapsed under enemy fire. The surface bombardment began immediately, but the population was safe in underground shelters that had been built to survive anything short of destroying the entire planet. The hegemony capital world was called Nexus Prime, and it sat at the center of a solar system that had been turned into the ultimate fortress. Thousands of defense platforms orbited the star, and patrol fleets moved in carefully planned patterns that left no gaps in coverage. "There," Amy Torres pointed to her display. "The central command complex is on the planet's surface. If we can Get the disruption device close enough, it should work. But between them and the planet were more enemy ships than Jake had ever seen in one place. Even with their captured command ship, they would never make it through that much firepower. That's when Jake remembered something from his military training. Sometimes the best way to win a battle was to make the enemy think they had already won. Amy, send a surrender signal to the defense fleet. Tell them we're the survivors of Earth's destruction, and we want to surrender to the hegemony leadership personally. It was a desperate gamble, but it worked. The hegemony forces had been expecting news of Earth's fall, and a human command ship requesting surrender seemed reasonable. They were escorted through the defense perimeter toward the planet's surface. Jake looked around at his crew one last time. Everyone understand what we're doing here? Once we activate that device, this ship is going to explode. There's no way home. Ryan Bell spoke for all of them. Captain, we knew this was a one-way trip when we started. Let's make it count. The captured hegemony ship landed at the Central Command Complex, where First Speaker Vax himself was waiting to accept humanity's surrender. Jake and his crew walked down the landing ramp with Kevin Price carrying the disruption device hidden in a case of fake surrender documents. So, Vax said with satisfaction, the humans finally understand their place in the galaxy. Actually, Jake replied, pulling out his sidearm, we understand something else entirely. We understand that bullies only understand one language. The firefight was brief, but intense. Jake's Marines had trained for exactly this kind of situation, while the hegemony guards had never faced enemies who were willing to die to complete their mission. Kevin Price reached the central communication array and activated the disruption device just as enemy reinforcements arrived. The device worked perfectly, sending out a signal that shut down every hegemony communication system within 1,000 light years. Jake felt the deck plates beneath his feet beginning to vibrate as the ship's damaged reactor finally went critical. Through the command complex's windows, he could see hegemony ships throughout the system, beginning to drift aimlessly as their coordination systems failed. Back at Earth, Admiral Morgan watched in amazement as the enemy fleet suddenly stopped. Moving in formation, individual ships began making random maneuvers, clearly unable to communicate with each other or their commanders. All ships, press the attack, she ordered. They're blind and deaf. Take them down one at a time. The Alliance fleet pounced on, the confused hegemony ships like wolves attacking scattered sheep. Without coordination, the technologically superior alien vessels were no match for the combined tactics of multiple species working together. The Battle of Earth ended with the complete destruction of the hegemony invasion fleet. But the real victory came when other species throughout the galaxy saw what had happened. The news spread quickly. The mighty hegemony could be defeated. Rebellions broke out on hundreds of worlds. Species that had been enslaved for thousands of years rose up against their oppressors. The hegemony empire, which had seemed unbeatable for so long, began to crumble from within. 6 months later, Admiral Morgan stood on the bridge of the new flagship UHS Jake Harrison, watching as representatives from dozens of species signed the Galactic Coalition Charter. The war was over, but the cost had been enormous. Billions had died and entire star systems had been devastated. Admiral, said Captain Megan Wright, who had survived the war and been promoted to command the new ship, we're receiving reports of the last hegemony stronghold surrendering. It's really over. Patricia nodded, thinking about all the people who hadn't lived to see this day. Jake Harrison and his crew, who had sacrificed themselves to break the enemy's coordination. The thousands of human and alien warriors who had died fighting for freedom, but their sacrifice had not been in vain. The galaxy was free again, and humanity had earned its place among the stars not through conquest but through courage. As the new ship prepared for its first exploration mission, Patricia smiled. Jake would have liked that. Humans were going back to what they did best, exploring the unknown and finding new ways to do impossible things. The war that had begun with one human ship discovering an alien beacon had ended with humanity helping to liberate an entire galaxy. It was exactly the kind of story that Jake Harrison would have wanted to tell.